Dorothy Romale sat frozen at her dormitory desk in Wellesley College, Massachusetts, staring at the most peculiar letter she had ever received during 4 years of distinguished academic achievement in advanced mathematics and classical languages. The official-looking envelope bore no return address, only a Washington, D.C. postmark dated March 15, 1942, and a government seal that seemed to suggest official correspondence, despite the mysterious circumstances surrounding its arrival at her dormitory mailbox during what should have been a routine Tuesday afternoon in spring semester. Inside, typed on crisp government letterhead with precise formatting that suggested careful preparation and official authorization, was a message that would forever change not only her life, but the course of World War II itself. Dear Miss Romale, we understand you excel in mathematics and have shown exceptional aptitude for complex problem-solving, pattern recognition, and analytical thinking that suggests capabilities we urgently require for confidential government service. We are wondering if you enjoy working crossword puzzles, cryptograms, and other similar intellectual challenges that require sustained concentration and systematic analytical approaches. Are you currently unmarried and available for immediate relocation to the Washington area for essential war work? The letter continued with details that seemed deliberately vague yet intriguingly specific. If so, we may have an opportunity that would serve your country during its time of greatest need while utilizing your intellectual capabilities in ways that peacetime employment could never provide. The work involves confidential analysis requiring absolute discretion, mathematical precision, and patriotic dedication to objectives that cannot be fully explained until after successful completion of our comprehensive screening process. The correspondence was signed only U.S. Civil Service Commission, Personnel Security Division, with detailed instructions to report to a downtown Washington address if interested, bringing proof of American citizenship, academic transcripts, and sworn character references from 3 individuals who could attest to her loyalty, discretion, and intellectual capabilities. No mention was made of specific salary ranges, detailed job duties, or the precise nature of the work, only that it involved highly classified government service requiring absolute secrecy and demonstrated commitment to national security objectives. Dorothy's hands trembled as she read the mysterious invitation for the 4th time, trying to decipher hidden meanings in language that seemed deliberately crafted to reveal as little as possible while generating maximum intrigue. Around her, the familiar sounds of college life continued unchanged, students studying for final examinations, discussing weekend social plans, and worrying about boyfriends and brothers who had been shipped off to military training camps across America as the nation rapidly mobilized for global warfare that seemed increasingly likely to last for years. None of her dormitory roommates could have imagined that this unassuming mathematics major from small-town Marion, Indiana, whose greatest previous excitement had been winning the regional mathematics competition during her senior year of high school, was being recruited for one of the most classified and strategically important operations in American military history, a program so secret that its very existence would remain hidden from historians and the general public for over 3 decades. After the war's conclusion, what Dorothy didn't realize was that identical letters carefully personalized with specific details about each recipient's academic achievements and personal circumstances were being mailed simultaneously to thousands of carefully selected young women across the United States. Brilliant college graduates with demonstrated abilities in mathematics, foreign languages, music theory, and puzzle solving, who met highly specific psychological and social criteria that would make them perfect. Candidates for breaking enemy codes that protected the deepest military and diplomatic secrets of America's most dangerous adversaries. The selection process had been developed over months of intensive planning and psychological research, designed to identify women with rare combinations of intellectual capability, emotional stability, and personal flexibility necessary for sustained cryptographic work under conditions of extreme pressure and absolute secrecy that would challenge even the most dedicated individuals. Just 8 months earlier, in the windowless basement offices of the War Department's Military Intelligence Division, located in a nondescript government building that had been hastily converted from peacetime administrative use to wartime intelligence operations, Colonel William Friedman had outlined the most ambitious, code-breaking recruitment program ever attempted by any nation in the history of military intelligence operations. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor had demonstrated with devastating clarity America's desperate need for intelligence superiority that could provide advance warning of enemy operations while enabling American military forces to anticipate and counter Axis strategic planning. Traditional sources of cryptographic talent, male mathematicians, linguists, and scientists with advanced technical training, were being rapidly conscripted into combat units where their specialized analytical skills would be completely wasted on conventional military duties that any reasonably intelligent soldier could perform effectively. "Gentlemen," Friedman had announced to his assembled staff of experienced intelligence officers, many of whom had served in similar capacities during World War I and understood the crucial importance of communications intelligence in modern warfare, "we face an unprecedented challenge that requires unprecedented solutions developed with imagination and determination that exceeds anything we have previously attempted in American intelligence operations." The colonel gestured dramatically toward captured examples of enemy communication equipment that cluttered his office like exhibits in a museum of technological sophistication. Fragments of intercepted Japanese diplomatic cables, German military radio transcripts, Italian naval communications, and other materials that had been intercepted by American monitoring stations but remained completely impenetrable to intelligence analysts using conventional code-breaking methods that had been developed during World War I and refined through limited peacetime research and development efforts. Breaking these advanced cipher systems will require mathematical brilliance that exceeds anything available through normal academic recruitment channels, linguistic expertise that encompasses not just foreign language fluency, but deep understanding of cultural contexts and communication patterns, and pattern recognition abilities that surpass anything we have previously encountered among professional cryptographers with decades of specialized training and experience, Friedman continued with emphasis that reflected his understanding of the enormous challenge facing American intelligence services. The enemy communication systems represented quantum advances in cryptographic sophistication that made previous code-breaking achievements seem primitive by comparison. Japanese diplomatic communications were protected by electromechanical cipher machines that created billions of possible key combinations using mathematical algorithms that changed continuously according to predetermined schedules known only to authorized Japanese personnel. German military traffic employed the famous Enigma machine, along with other advanced cipher systems that had been developed by Europe's finest mathematicians and engineers, specifically to resist cryptographic analysis using any known techniques. Most importantly, Friedman emphasized, we need individuals who can think in fundamentally different ways than conventional military analysts, who can see patterns that escape traditional approaches to problem solving, and who can work with sustained dedication and attention to detail that borders on intellectual obsession, while maintaining absolute secrecy about work that must remain completely invisible to enemy intelligence services that are constantly attempting to determine the extent of American cryptographic capabilities. The solution that emerged from extensive discussions among America's leading intelligence specialists represented a revolutionary approach to personnel recruitment that challenged traditional assumptions about appropriate candidates for advanced scientific and technical work. Instead of limiting recruitment to established professional communities that had historically dominated cryptographic research, American intelligence services would target the nation's most intelligent young women, recent college graduates with proven academic excellence who possessed the mental flexibility, attention to detail, and sustained concentration necessary for advanced mathematical analysis, but who faced severely limited career opportunities in a society that typically restricted educated women to teaching, nursing, or secretarial work that failed to utilize their full intellectual capabilities and educational preparation. Women represent America's greatest untapped intellectual resource for this type of analytical work, Friedman declared with conviction, based on years of direct experience working with brilliant female analysts who had consistently outperformed their male colleagues in solving complex cryptographic problems that required sustained mathematical reasoning and pattern recognition under pressure. They have received education to the highest standards that American universities can provide, often exceeding the academic preparation of their male classmates. But peacetime society has provided them with virtually no opportunities to contribute their capabilities to meaningful work that fully utilizes their training, intelligence, and analytical potential. The recruitment program that emerged from these strategic discussions was unprecedented in its scope, sophistication, and systematic approach to identifying candidates with specific mental attributes necessary for cryptographic success, while maintaining operational security that prevented enemy intelligence services from understanding the scale or nature of American code-breaking operations. The carefully crafted recruitment letters were developed through extensive collaboration between intelligence professionals, academic psychologists, and personnel specialists who understood both the technical requirements of cryptographic work and the social constraints that limited career options for educated women during the 1940s. The letters were designed to intrigue qualified candidates while revealing absolutely nothing about the actual nature of the work, the size of the program, or the strategic importance of cryptographic analysis in determining military outcomes. Ms. Ann Mitchell, Personnel Director for the Navy's rapidly expanding cryptographic division and one of the few women to hold senior administrative positions in American military intelligence, had spent months developing the psychological profiles and selection criteria used to identify potential recruits from among thousands of college graduates whose academic records suggested appropriate intellectual capabilities and personal characteristics. "We're not simply looking for raw intelligence, though that's certainly essential," Mitchell explained to her staff of recruiters and screening specialists during training sessions that prepared them for evaluating candidates whose potential contributions could determine the outcome of the war. "We need individuals who can sustain intense concentration for months or even years, while working on problems that may never be completely solved, who can maintain absolute focus under extreme psychological pressure, and who can find personal satisfaction and professional meaning in work that they can never discuss with family members, friends, or even future spouses." The recruitment letters deliberately avoided any specific details about the actual work, while incorporating carefully designed tests of candidates' willingness to serve their country without recognition, explanation, or conventional career advancement opportunities. The seemingly innocent questions about puzzle-solving abilities and marital status weren't casual inquiries. They were sophisticated screening tools designed to identify women with the specific mental discipline required for sustained pattern analysis and the personal flexibility necessary to relocate to Washington for classified assignments that might continue for years beyond the war's expected conclusion. The questions about unmarried status reflected practical considerations about the mobility and availability required for classified work, but they also revealed the systematic discrimination that characterized women's career opportunities during the 1940s, when marriage typically ended professional employment and society expected educated women to abandon intellectual pursuits in favor of domestic responsibilities that made no use of their training or capabilities. Dorothy Ramoli's response was typical of thousands of young women who received similar recruitment letters during 1942 and 1943. Intrigued by the mysterious opportunity, motivated by patriotic duty that had been intensified by Pearl Harbor and America's entry into global warfare, and attracted by the possibility of meaningful work that might utilize her mathematical training in ways that peacetime employment opportunities would never provide, she traveled to Washington in April 1942. She joined dozens of other college graduates at a nondescript government building, where they underwent the most comprehensive and intensive screening process that any civilian employees had ever experienced, involving psychological evaluation, intellectual assessment, security investigation, and personal interviews that continued for 3 full days and challenged candidates in ways they had never encountered during their academic careers. The screening process began with standard administrative questions about educational background, family history, personal interests, and career aspirations, but quickly evolved into increasingly complex analytical tests that evaluated mathematical reasoning ability, language aptitude, pattern recognition skills, and psychological suitability for sustained intellectual work under conditions of extreme stress and absolute secrecy. Candidates were presented with progressively more difficult puzzles that tested their ability to identify mathematical relationships, recognize linguistic patterns, and solve logical problems using systematic analytical approaches rather than intuitive guesswork or random trial-and-error methods. The puzzles were designed not just to measure intelligence, but to evaluate specific types of analytical thinking that were essential for cryptographic success. Miss Ramaleh, her final interviewer asked during a session that lasted over 2 hours and covered every aspect of her personal and academic background, if selected for this position, you would be required to sign an oath of absolute secrecy that would prevent you from discussing your work with anyone, family members, friends, roommates, or even future spouses, for an indefinite period that could extend decades beyond the war's conclusion. You would live in government housing under constant security supervision, work irregular hours under physically and mentally demanding conditions, and receive compensation that would be significantly less than what male colleagues earn for equivalent responsibilities and contributions. Are you prepared to make these personal and professional sacrifices for work that you cannot fully understand until after you begin? Dorothy's response was immediate, unwavering, and characteristic of the patriotic dedication that motivated thousands of young women to abandon conventional career expectations in favor of classified service that offered no recognition, advancement opportunities, or post-war career benefits. If this work serves my country and helps bring our soldiers home sooner, by contributing to American military success, I accept whatever conditions and sacrifices are necessary. I understand that some forms of service require complete dedication without personal reward or public acknowledgement. Her answer echoed those provided by thousands of other exceptional young women who understood intuitively that this recruitment represented not just unusual employment, but the opportunity to contribute meaningfully to America's war effort using their intelligence, education, and analytical capabilities in ways that peacetime society would never allow, encourage, or recognize as appropriate for women, regardless of their qualifications or potential contributions. The intensive training program that followed Dorothy's selection was unlike anything these women had experienced during their college education or could have imagined based on their understanding of conventional government employment during peacetime conditions. Housed in hastily converted apartment buildings and improvised dormitories throughout Washington's expanding wartime bureaucracy, the new recruits were introduced to the fundamental principles and advanced techniques of cryptographic analysis through courses taught by America's leading experts in mathematics, linguistics, intelligence analysis, and related fields. Professor Solomon Kullback, one of America's most distinguished cryptographers and a pioneer in mathematical approaches to code breaking who had worked with Colonel Friedman since the 1920s, conducted daily lectures on mathematical principles underlying modern cipher systems, teaching young women advanced statistical methods, probability theory, algebraic techniques, and analytical procedures that most universities didn't include in undergraduate mathematics curricula, even for students specializing in advanced mathematical studies. The complexity and sophistication of the training material was staggering. Mathematical concepts that typically required graduate-level preparation and years of specialized study were presented to students who had often completed only basic college mathematics requirements, yet were expected to master these advanced techniques within weeks and apply them immediately to problems that had challenged professional cryptographers for months or years. "Ladies," Kullback announced during the first week of training, speaking to an audience of brilliant young women who would soon become America's most valuable intelligence assets, "you are about to become warriors in an invisible battle where weapons are mathematical ideas and linguistic insights, where victories are measured in enemy secrets revealed and strategic advantages gained, and where defeat means American soldiers, sailors, and airmen die because we failed to provide them with intelligence that could have saved their lives and enabled military success." The psychological pressure was immense and deliberately designed to eliminate candidates who couldn't handle the mental demands, emotional stress, and intellectual challenges of cryptographic work under wartime conditions that offered no relief, vacation time, or normal work-life balance that characterized civilian employment during peacetime. Students worked 18-hour days, 7 days per week, for months at a time without breaks, vacations, or relief, from the constant pressure of solving problems that could affect battle outcomes and determine whether American military operations succeeded or failed, with consequences measured in thousands of lives and strategic territories that could influence the war's ultimate outcome. Many candidates couldn't handle the intellectual pressure, social isolation, and personal sacrifices required for classified intelligence work that demanded complete dedication while offering no recognition, advancement opportunities, or conventional career benefits. However, those who survived the training program and demonstrated the necessary combination of intellectual capability, emotional resilience, and personal commitment became the foundation of America's cryptographic superiority that would prove decisive in achieving victory over technologically sophisticated enemies who had initially possessed significant advantages in communications security and intelligence operations. This incredible story of intellectual courage and patriotic dedication demonstrates how extraordinary individuals can achieve results that exceed the most optimistic expectations when properly motivated, trained, and organized for objectives that transcend personal interest and conventional career advancement. The women who received mysterious letters asking about their interest in crossword puzzles became the invisible heroes whose mathematical brilliance and sustained analytical work enabled American military victory through contributions that remained completely secret for decades, while their male colleagues received recognition, promotion, and post-war career advancement for less significant achievements. But this is just one of countless untold stories from World War II that revealed the extraordinary capabilities of ordinary Americans when challenged by national emergency and provided with opportunities to contribute their talents to meaningful objectives that utilize their full potential, rather than limiting them to conventional social roles that wasted human resources and intellectual capabilities. What other shocking revelations await us in the declassified archives of American intelligence operations? What other moments of intellectual breakthrough changed the course of global warfare while remaining hidden from historical recognition until decades after their strategic impact had determined the outcome of the most important conflict in human history? If you found this story as remarkable as I did, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What surprised you most about the contributions of female codebreakers and their decisive impact on American military success during World War II? Have you heard similar stories from family members who served in intelligence roles, worked in classified positions, or contributed to the war effort in ways that remained secret for decades after their service concluded? Your insights and family stories help bring these historical moments to life for all of us and preserve the memory of achievements that deserve recognition and remembrance. And if you're hungry for more incredible stories like this one, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We're uncovering these hidden gems of history every single day, and trust me, you won't want to miss what we've discovered for tomorrow's episode. The story of how German intelligence officers dismissed American industrial espionage capabilities as primitive and ineffective until 10,000 American agents penetrated every major Nazi research facility and military installation while providing intelligence that enabled Allied victory will absolutely blow your mind with revelations that remained classified for decades. Until next time, keep questioning what you think you know about history, because the truth about America's secret warriors is often far more incredible than the official accounts, and the intellectual achievements that won World War II continue to influence modern technology, intelligence operations, and scientific research in ways that most people never realize or fully appreciate. Anne Mitchell, who had completed the training program 6 months earlier, remembered the transformation that occurred during these intensive weeks. We entered as college graduates who thought we understood what intellectual challenge meant. We emerged as codebreakers who could see patterns in chaos, find meaning in randomness, and solve problems that had stumped the world's best mathematicians. Most importantly, we learned that our minds were weapons as powerful as any gun or bomb in winning this war. By summer 1942, over 10,000 women had been recruited, trained, and assigned to cryptographic units throughout the American military and intelligence apparatus. They worked in shifts around the clock, operating complex mechanical calculators, analyzing intercepted enemy communications, and applying mathematical techniques to problems that would determine the outcome of battles, campaigns, and ultimately the war itself. The work was grueling beyond anything these women had experienced in civilian life. Dorothy Romali found herself assigned to the Japanese diplomatic section, where she spent 14 hours daily analyzing intercepted cable traffic, using statistical methods to identify patterns that might reveal the structure of Japan's most secret diplomatic cipher system, known to American intelligence as Purple, due to the color-coded filing system used to organize intercepted materials. The Purple machine represented the pinnacle of Japanese cryptographic engineering, a complex electromechanical device that encoded diplomatic communications using multiple cipher wheels, switching mechanisms, and mathematical algorithms that created billions of possible key combinations. Japanese engineers believed the system was mathematically unbreakable, and for months their confidence seemed justified, as American cryptographers failed to make any progress in understanding how the machine operated. Every morning I would sit at my desk, surrounded by thousands of intercepted messages that looked like complete gibberish, Dorothy recalled in a rare interview decades after the war. Numbers, letters, and symbols arranged in patterns that seemed completely random. My job was to find order in that chaos, to detect regularities that might reveal how the Japanese machine worked. Most days I found nothing, but I kept searching because I knew that somewhere in those messages were secrets that could save American lives. The breakthrough came in September 1940, when Genevieve Grotjan, a mathematics graduate from the University of Buffalo working in the Army's Signals Intelligence Service, noticed a subtle pattern that had escaped detection for months of intensive analysis. While examining a particularly long intercepted message, she observed that certain letter combinations appeared at positions that suggested a mathematical relationship between the cipher wheels controlling the Purple machine's encoding process. I was comparing several messages that had been sent on the same day when I noticed that specific sequences appeared at regular intervals. Grotjan explained in classified debriefings that remained secret for decades. The pattern was so subtle that it would have been invisible in shorter messages, but these diplomatic cables were long enough to reveal the mathematical structure underlying the entire cipher system. Working through the night with nervous energy that kept her awake for 36 consecutive hours, Grotjan developed the theoretical framework that enabled American cryptographers to understand how the Purple machine operated. Her mathematical insight provided the foundation for building replica machines that could decode Japanese diplomatic communications in real time, giving American intelligence unprecedented access to Japan's most secret strategic planning and diplomatic negotiations. The strategic implications were immediate and revolutionary. American codebreakers could now read Japanese diplomatic traffic between Tokyo and Japanese embassies worldwide, providing detailed intelligence about Japanese military planning, alliance negotiations with Germany and Italy, and strategic assessments of American military capabilities that enabled Washington to understand Japanese thinking with clarity that seemed almost telepathic. President Franklin Roosevelt received daily briefings based on decoded Japanese diplomatic communications, giving him advanced knowledge of Japanese policy decisions, military deployments, and strategic priorities that enabled American leaders to anticipate Japanese moves and develop countermeasures that consistently surprised Japanese planners who assumed their communications remained completely secure. The intelligence advantages extended far beyond diplomatic communications to include military traffic that revealed Japanese naval operations, troop movements, and supply schedules throughout the Pacific Theater. American submarines received coordinates for Japanese merchant vessels, and warships decoded from intercepted communications, enabling torpedo attacks that systematically destroyed Japanese logistics and naval capability with precision that Japanese commanders attributed to impossibly effective American reconnaissance, rather than communications intelligence. Admiral Chester Nimitz, commanding Pacific Fleet operations, later acknowledged that decoded Japanese communications were more valuable than any other intelligence source in planning American operations that consistently achieved tactical surprise despite Japanese defensive preparations. "We could read their mail better than they could," Nimitz observed, and that advantage was worth more than additional ships, planes, or divisions in determining battle outcomes. The most dramatic example of communications intelligence impact occurred in April 1943, when American codebreakers decoded Japanese naval communications, revealing the precise itinerary for Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto's inspection tour of forward bases in the Solomon Islands. Yamamoto, architect of the Pearl Harbor attack and Japan's most capable naval strategist, was traveling according to a schedule that provided American forces with exact timing and routing information for his aircraft. Ann Mitchell was among the codebreakers who worked through the night, decoding the intelligence that enabled American P-38 fighters to intercept and shoot down Yamamoto's aircraft, eliminating Japan's finest naval commander and dealing a psychological blow to Japanese morale that exceeded the tactical impact of destroying entire military units. We knew we had decoded something important when senior officers started arriving at all hours to review our work, Mitchell remembered. The next morning, we learned that our intelligence had enabled the most significant targeted killing operation in naval warfare history. The European theater provided equally dramatic examples of how American female codebreakers contributed to Allied victory through intelligence that enabled successful military operations while remaining completely invisible to public recognition or historical acknowledgement. German communications, protected by the famous Enigma machine and other sophisticated cipher systems, yielded crucial intelligence about Nazi military planning, industrial production, and strategic priorities that guided Allied bombing campaigns and invasion preparations. Lieutenant Colonel Ruth Briggs, commanding the Women's Army Corps cryptographic unit analyzing German communications, supervised over 2,000 female codebreakers whose work provided intelligence that enabled Allied forces to anticipate German defensive preparations for the D-Day invasion. Our girls were reading German traffic that told us exactly where Nazi commanders expected the invasion to occur, how they were positioning their reserves, and what defensive measures they were implementing, Briggs explained in classified post-war reports. The intelligence enabled Allied planners to adjust invasion routes, modify deception operations, and coordinate tactical approaches that exploited German defensive weaknesses identified through communications analysis. The success of Operation Overlord owed as much to intelligence provided by female codebreakers as to the courage of soldiers who stormed the Normandy beaches, but only the soldiers received recognition, while the women remained bound by secrecy oaths that prevented any acknowledgement of their contributions. The working conditions endured by these women were harsh beyond anything their civilian backgrounds had prepared them to experience. They worked in windowless basement facilities with inadequate ventilation, poor lighting, and minimal heating during Washington's brutal winters. The mental pressure was constant and exhausting, solving problems that had stumped the world's best mathematicians, while knowing that failures could result in American deaths and military disasters. We worked 12 to 16-hour shifts, 7 days per week, for months at a time without breaks or vacations, recalled Sarah Johnson, who served with the Navy's cryptographic division throughout the war. The work required absolute concentration and mathematical precision under conditions that would have been considered inhumane in civilian employment. But we understood that every message we decoded could save American lives, and that knowledge sustained us through exhaustion, frustration, and personal sacrifice. The women received salaries that were typically 25 to 40% less than male colleagues performing equivalent work, lived in crowded government housing with minimal privacy, and endured social isolation that resulted from their inability to discuss their work with family or friends. Many developed health problems from the stress and working conditions, while others experienced psychological difficulties related to the pressure and secrecy requirements of their assignments. Despite these hardships, retention rates remained remarkably high throughout the war, reflecting the deep commitment these women felt toward their mission and their understanding of how their work contributed to American military success. They found satisfaction in intellectual challenges that utilized their education and capabilities in ways that peacetime society would never have permitted, while serving their country in roles that provided meaning and purpose that transcended personal comfort or material compensation. The technological innovations developed by female codebreakers extended far beyond cryptographic analysis to include advanced mathematical techniques, statistical methods, and analytical approaches that would influence post-war developments in computing, information theory, and electronic communications. Many of the women who served as wartime codebreakers became pioneers in emerging fields, including computer programming, systems analysis, and cybernetics that shaped technological development throughout the remainder of the 20th century. Grace Hopper, who served as a naval cryptographer before becoming one of America's leading computer scientists, attributed her interest in automatic computation to experiences gained while breaking enemy codes during World War II. Working with mechanical calculators and complex mathematical algorithms during the war taught me that machines could be programmed to perform intellectual tasks that had previously required human analysis, Hopper explained. The transition from code breaking to computer programming was natural because both involved breaking complex problems into logical steps that could be systematically executed. The secrecy requirements that governed wartime code-breaking operations continued for decades after the war's conclusion, preventing these women from receiving recognition for contributions that had been decisive in achieving Allied victory. Most maintained complete silence about their wartime service until classified information was gradually declassified during the 1970s and 1980s, when historians finally began to understand the extent and importance of female contributions to American intelligence operations. Elizabeth Smith, who had served with distinction in the Army's cryptographic division, explained the personal cost of maintaining secrecy for over 3 decades. "I never told my husband, children, or closest friends what I had done during the war. When people asked about my service, I would say I had worked in communications or administrative support, because those were the only explanations that didn't violate my security oath. It was painful to hide such an important part of my life, but we understood that some secrets had to be kept, regardless of personal cost." The gradual declassification of cryptographic records during the final decades of the 20th century revealed that female codebreakers had been responsible for some of the most significant intelligence breakthroughs in American military history. Their work had enabled the sinking of Japanese submarines, the destruction of German supply convoys, the assassination of enemy commanders, and the successful planning of major military operations that determined the outcome of World War II. Modern historians studying declassified records have concluded that American cryptographic superiority, achieved largely through the contributions of female analysts, shortened the war by an estimated 18 to 24 months, while saving hundreds of thousands of American lives that would have been lost in prolonged combat operations. The intelligence provided by code breakers was often more valuable than additional military divisions in determining battle outcomes and strategic success. Dr. David Kahn, author of The Definitive History of Cryptography, has written that the women who broke enemy codes during World War II may have contributed more to Allied victory than any other single group of non-combat personnel. Their intellectual achievements in cryptographic analysis exceeded anything previously accomplished in intelligence history, while their personal sacrifices and professional dedication established standards of service that have never been surpassed. The legacy of America's female codebreakers extends far beyond their wartime achievements to encompass lasting contributions to science, technology, and social progress that influenced American development throughout the post-war period. Many of the women who learned advanced mathematics and analytical techniques while breaking enemy codes became leaders in emerging technological fields. University professors, research scientists, and government officials whose expertise helped maintain American scientific and technological leadership during the Cold War and beyond. The organizational methods developed for managing large-scale cryptographic operations influenced corporate management practices, government administration, and academic research coordination in ways that improved efficiency and effectiveness across numerous sectors of American society. The personnel selection techniques used to identify cryptographic talent became models for employment testing and career development that helped identify and utilize human potential more effectively than pre-war methods that had systematically undervalued female intellectual capabilities. Perhaps most importantly, the wartime service of female codebreakers demonstrated that women possessed intellectual capabilities that had been systematically underutilized by American society, challenging traditional assumptions about gender roles and career limitations that had restricted female participation in science, technology, and professional careers requiring advanced analytical skills. This incredible story of intellectual triumph over seemingly impossible mathematical challenges demonstrates how properly motivated and organized human intelligence can achieve results that exceed the capabilities of the most sophisticated mechanical systems and established scientific methods. The women who received mysterious letters asking about their interest in crossword puzzles became the invisible heroes who enabled American military victory through contributions that remained secret for decades, while their male colleagues received recognition and advancement for less significant achievements. But this is just one of countless untold stories from World War II that revealed the extraordinary capabilities of ordinary Americans when challenged by national emergency and provided with opportunities to contribute their talents to meaningful objectives that transcended personal interest or conventional social limitations. What other shocking revelations await us in the declassified archives of American intelligence operations? What other moments of intellectual breakthrough changed the course of global warfare while remaining hidden from historical recognition? If you found this story as remarkable as I did, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What surprised you most about the contributions of female codebreakers and their impact on American military success during World War II? Have you heard similar stories from family members who served in intelligence roles, worked in classified positions, or contributed to the war effort in ways that remained secret for decades? Your insights and family stories help bring these historical moments to life for all of us. And if you're hungry for more incredible stories like this one, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We're uncovering these hidden gems of history every single day. And trust me, you won't want to miss what we've discovered for tomorrow's episode. The story of how German intelligence officers dismissed American industrial espionage capabilities until 10,000 American agents penetrated every major Nazi research facility and military installation will absolutely blow your mind. Until next time, keep questioning what you think you know about history, because the truth about America's secret warriors is often far more incredible than the official accounts, and the intellectual achievements that won World War II continue to influence modern technology, intelligence operations, and scientific research in ways most people never realize.